Thanks for making time to learn about water, NIMAC, and AEM. My name is John Paul Harris, and I coordinate the activities of the NIMAC Clearinghouse for Accessible Media and Materials at the Wyoming Institute for Disabilities. Through a contract with the Wyoming Department of Education, Special Services Division, we provide services in the acquisition, appropriate use, and integration of accessible instructional materials for students with disabilities. For the past 3 years, we have traveled throughout the state to conduct full-day trainings on identifying, qualifying, and serving students with print disabilities. This year, we are creating learning capsules so that educators, parents, and others can access information when it is needed most. Both the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, currently called NCLB, and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, IDEA, include compelling requirements for state and local education agencies to ensure that all students, including those with disabilities, receive the supports and services they need to access, participate, and achieve in the general educational curriculum. Unfortunately, the printed textbooks and instructional materials used in the general education curriculum are not useful to many students with disabilities. These students require another way to gain the information needed to participate and achieve in the general curriculum. For many students, this need can be addressed by providing the student with the identical information in one or more specialized formats, such as Braille, large print, audio, and/or digital. When specialized formats and supports for use are well matched to the student's individual needs and abilities, the result can mean the difference between exclusion and achievement. Recognizing both the statutory and practical importance of ensuring that all students have instructional materials in formats that are useful to them, the Office of Special Education Programs of the United States Department of Education has funded several projects that are designed to help improve the quality, availability, and timely delivery of accessible instructional materials to K-12 students with disabilities. This includes the American Printing House for the Blind, Bookshare, Learning Ally, and the National Center on Accessible Instructional Materials, or the AEM Center. The work of the current projects builds on the work begun, lessons learned, and products developed by previous federally funded NIMAC AEM projects. The work of the past project has been incorporated into the continued work of the National Center for Accessible Instructional Materials. The National Center provides knowledge development, technical assistance, and leadership to state and local educational agencies, as well as to other stakeholders in the massive collaborative effort involved in getting high-quality accessible materials into the hands of students who need them. The focus of this Part 1 workshop is on the legal issues and definitions related to accessible instructional material. Additional resources and materials will spotlight the array of supports, services, and tools that are available to all states and territories, primarily via the AEM Center website at http://aim.cast.org for the selection, acquisition, and use of AEM in the classroom. In the legal context, IDEA 2004 requires state educational agencies and local education agencies to ensure that textbooks and related print materials are provided in a specialized format to students with print disabilities, when needed, and in a timely manner. IDEA 2004 also establishes the National Instructional Materials Accessibility Standard, NIMAC, and the National Instructional Materials Access Center, NIMAC. While the intent that all students have instructional materials in formats that are useful to them is clear, educators, families, and other stakeholders are often unclear about actions to take and also have questions about what some of the terms mean. In this workshop, frequently asked questions about these requirements will be explored. Requirements in the final regulations. What do the final regulations of IDEA 2004 require SEAs and LEAs to do. 1. Ensure that all public agencies take all responsible steps to provide instructional materials in accessible formats to students with disabilities, at the same time as other children receive instructional materials. 2. Adopt the NIMAC standard for the purposes of providing instructional materials to persons who are blind or other persons with print disabilities in a timely manner. 3. Establish a state definition of timely manner. 4. Choose whether or not to coordinate with the NIMAC. What is NIMAC? The National Instructional Materials Accessibility Standard, or NIMAC, is a standard file format mandated in IDEA 2004 for textbooks and related printed core instructional materials. A NIMAC conformant source file is not student ready, but must be converted into one of the specialized formats, for example, Braille, audio, digital, or large print, for student use. This packaged set of files and the images folder are bundled up and sent to the NIMAC for validation and safekeeping. No one sees these files. Each state has their own NIMAC coordinator, and that person has the responsibility of accessing and downloading these file sets. What is the NIMAC? The National Instructional Materials Access Center, NIMAC, is the national repository that validates, stores, and distributes NIMAC-compliant source files of textbooks and related core materials provided by publishers. Once again, source files from the NIMAC are not student-ready, but each single source file can be used to create student-ready materials in all four specialized formats. Materials created from source files from the NIMAC can only be used by students who are both served as a student with disabilities under IDEA and certified by a competent authority as having a print disability. Unless a student meets both of these criteria, the NIMAC cannot be used as a source of materials that are provided to the student. Additional information on the NIMAC is available on the NIMAC website at www.nimac.us. Publishers can be asked to prepare and send file sets to the NIMAC, and the request can be included in the purchasing contract. There really is no downside for states that are willing to coordinate with the NIMAC, and there are compelling reasons to do so. First, there is no charge for SEAs or LEAs to coordinate with the NIMAC, and no charge for gaining access to the files. Second, as the number and quality of files in the NIMAC increase, there will be a significant reduction in cost to districts. What are print instructional materials? The IDEA statute defines print instructional materials as printed textbooks and related printed core materials that are written and published primarily for use in elementary school and secondary school instruction and are required by a state educational agency or a local education agency for use by students in the classroom. What is meant by the term related print core materials? They are generally thought to be the materials that are published and packaged with a textbook. For example, workbooks and reproducible supplementary materials. The 1996 Chafee Amendment to the Copyright Law establishes an exception to copyright infringement for the reproduction of works for use by the blind or other persons with print disabilities. The definition of blind and other persons with print disability refers, as does IDEA 2004, to the definition in the An Act to Provide Books for the Adult Blind, approved March 3, 1931. For more detailed information on the copyright law and the Chafee Amendment, refer to the National Library Services fact sheets at the NLS website, www.locgov/NLS. What is a print disability? An Act to Provide Books for the Adult Blind is the foundation for the Chafee Amendment to the Copyright Law. allowing production of alternate materials for people who have a print disability. A print disability is defined as blind persons whose visual acuity, as determined by a competent authority, is 20/200 or less in the better eye with correcting glasses, or whose widest diameter if visual field subtends at an angular distance no greater than 20 degrees. Or, a print disability can be a person whose visual disability, with correction and regardless of optical measurement, is certified by a competent authority as preventing the reading of standard printed material. Or, a person certified by a competent authority as unable to read or unable to use standard printed material as a result of a physical limitation. And person certified by competent authority as having a reading disability resulting from organic dysfunction and of sufficient severity to prevent their reading printed materials in a normal manner. Okay, so we know what a print disability is. Who is a competent authority? Based on the Library of Congress regulations related to the Act to provide books for the adult blind, a competent authority is defined as follows. In cases of blindness, visual disability, or physical limitations, competent authority is defined to include doctors of medicine, doctors of osteopathy, ophthalmologists, optometrists, registered nurses, therapists, professional staff of hospitals, institutions, and public or welfare agencies. In the absence of any of these, certification may be made by professional librarians or by any persons whose competence under specific circumstances is acceptable to the Library of Congress. In the case of a reading disability from an organic dysfunction, a competent authority is defined as doctors of medicine who may consult with colleagues in associated disciplines. What are the specialized formats? There are 4 specialized formats included in IDEA: Braille, large print, audio, and digital, which are all described here. These represent the array of student-ready formats that can be produced in several ways, including from a single XML source file that has been developed in accordance with the technical specifications of the NIMAC. Braille. Braille is a tactile system of reading and writing made up of raised dot patterns for letters, numbers, and punctuation marks used by people with visual impairments. Braille may either be embossed, a permanent printed document, or refreshable, electronically generated and accessed via a Braille display device. Large print. Large print is generally defined as print that is larger than the print size commonly used by the general population, 8 to 12 point in size. Some use a guideline for defining large print as 18 point in size or larger. A document rendered in the large print format usually has more white space and may or may not look like the original document but contains the same information. Large print may be printed on pages that are the same size as a standard textbook or on pages of larger size. Audio. The audio format renders the content as speech to which the student listens. The audio format includes recorded human speech and synthesized electronic speech. Digital format. The digital format delivers electronic text and graphics that are rendered on a computer or some other device. This format has both visual and audio output that may be displayed individually or together. Electronic text can be changed in many ways. For example, size, contrast can all be adjusted to accommodate the needs and preferences of the user. How the material is presented to the user depends upon the student's need and upon the technology being used. What does "in a timely manner" mean? IDEA 2004 requires each state to define what it means in their state. Generally, it means at the same time that other students receive their core instructional materials. The gold standard for timely manner is at the same time that other students receive their printed materials. So, if other students get their textbooks the first day of school, then a student using an audio version should get their audio version of the same textbook on the same day. What many states have done is to include a clause related to extenuating circumstances. For example, if a student moves into the district and needs a Braille textbook, it might not be available. But anytime there is a delay in getting those materials, then there would be the understanding that the delay would be addressed so it did not occur on a regular basis. What do educators and families need to do? The most efficient and effective way to consider the needs for assistive technology is through a decision-making process. And really, the same holds true for AIM. Basically, there are 4 steps that teams must take in order to ensure that students who need materials in these formats have them when needed for educational participation and achievement. Those steps include comprehensive evaluation to identify the needs of each unique child. 2. Select specialized formats needed by the student for educational participation and achievement. 3. Commence SEA and/or LEA defined steps to acquire needed formats in a timely manner. 4. Determine supports needed for effective use for educational participation and achievement. The next module will focus on the decision-making process, and we'll look closely at how each of the steps requires good thinking to determine whether or not the student may need AIM. Then, when they are needed, determining which formats are appropriate and the sources from which to acquire the formats. Finally, the team will think about the supports and services that will be needed for the student to use the formats effectively. Included in Module 2 will be an introduction to several tools developed by the AIM Consortium that support teams with decision making at every step of the process. Thank you for tuning into AIM Part 1, Introduction and Legal Context. We hope to see you for the next module in our training series, Navigating the Decision-Making Process.